Hello and welcome to the official Wrestle News 365 YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. So let's talk about it. Yes, I decided to give myself some time to think about this video before putting it out. We're going to be talking about Goldberg, obviously, and him winning the Universal Championship last night at Super Showdown. Spoiler if you haven't seen it already, but even if you weren't watching the show, I don't think you could avoid the uproar that is on social media right now regarding this result. Like I said, initially I was going to do a straightaway quickfire reaction to this result, to the pay-per-view and all of this stuff, but I decided to leave it a little bit and let myself think this over, let me sleep on it, because I don't think with these things, of course we were all angry, right? I was angry at the time, and I still am angry regarding this whole fiasco and this booking, quite frankly, madness. But I decided to sleep on it because I thought, okay, well, let's try and think, let's draw up a list. Let's try and find the positives and the negatives here. Let's try and understand WWE or Vince McMahon's point of view when it comes to booking this. And I'm going to be completely honest with you. 12 hours removed, maybe a little bit less than that, I'm still trying to wrap my head around the logic or the lack of logic when it comes to this decision, when it comes to this finish, when it comes to this match. Just all of it is still absolutely is blowing my mind at this point. So let's get into it. Obviously, the main event of last night's Super Showdown event was the Fiend, Bray Wyatt, defending the Universal Championship against Goldberg, WWE Hall of Famer, 53 years old, former Universal Champion, of course, a couple of years ago. The match lasted a staggering 3 minutes, which, to be honest, I guess for a Goldberg match is practically a marathon. But if you missed it, you didn't miss much. Basically, what happened was we had a couple of spears. Bray Wyatt kicks out at one, like he has been doing in all of his other matches, so that was fine. Wyatt locks in the mandible claw a couple of times. Goldberg gets out a couple more spears, and then the worst jackhammer in history. Honestly, this rivaled the Undertaker's one last year, where Goldberg just about paralyzed the Undertaker. The worst jackhammer in history for the 1-2-3 victory, and Goldberg is the new Universal Champion. And I say the worst jackhammer in history. I've watched this back a couple of times now, and Goldberg sort of really psychs himself up for this jackhammer. He's standing there, he kind of goes for it a couple of times, and Wyatt's sort of going, do I jump up now? Do I jump up now? And it wasn't a jackhammer, it was a suplex. So Goldberg at 53 years of age defeats the undefeatable and unbeaten Fiend with a suplex at this point. And there's just so much to get into when it comes to this. I mean, so much to get into. There is so much wrong with all of this that I could probably speak for about 45 minutes. And now, don't worry, I'm not going to, because I don't want to make myself angry 24 hours removed, or however long it's been. But this is WWE's problem in a nutshell, isn't it? And WWE can't build new stars. You look at there's been this discussion or this debated point for quite a while now that WWE can't create new stars. That's why the ratings go down year on year. That's why WWE is in decline, even though they make more money than they've ever made. So are they really in decline? That's a discussion to have at another time. But this is why, because WWE can't create new stars. They just can't. And people's logic, or WWE's logic when it comes to this, they'll say Goldberg is the bigger name. Goldberg is the bigger name. He will sell more tickets. He will get more eyeballs to WrestleMania than someone like Bray Wyatt would. And the answer to that is absolutely true. That logic is absolutely correct. Now, why is that logic correct? Why is Goldberg the biggest star than Bray Wyatt? It goes back to the original point I just made a minute ago, because WWE can't create new stars and WWE won't build new stars. Okay, let's go back in time a little bit here. Okay, the Fiend debuted just after WrestleMania last year, and I say the Fiend, it was Bray Wyatt. The new Firefly Funhouse Bray Wyatt debuted just after WrestleMania. And he has been built up, this character, this new version of Bray Wyatt, including the Fiend, including the Firefly Funhouse, including all of this. Spent, 10, 11 months to build up. The Fiend, when he has his matches, he has the awesome entrance. Okay, he has his awesome entrance, and he dominates everyone. I mean, he destroys everyone. You had Seth Rollins running away in fear, he's crying. You had The Fiend kicking out of a million stomps, a million running knees from Daniel Bryan, kicking out one, and just dominating everyone. And all of this to lose to Goldberg in 3 minutes. A 53-year-old Goldberg. It almost parallels Goldberg's run in WCW. That when Kevin Nash beat him in a longer match, by the way, but when Kevin Nash beat him, everyone went, oh, "What are you doing? It doesn't make any sense." It almost had the same thing. However many years later, when was that? 1998. So all these years later, you have the same thing. Was it? I don't know, 22 years later, you're making the same mistake as WCW did. It just doesn't make it. It doesn't make any sense. And like I said, this is. And WWE's logic is, oh, well, Goldberg's a bigger star. Well, of course he's a bigger star, because you don't let your new stars get built. If you have Bray Wyatt or The Fiend, who is this new star, you build him up. In matches like last night against Goldberg, he has to win. That's how you build up new stars. They win. But what happens, like WWE has done for the longest time now, you have a part-timer come in, an old part-timer, and you have them squish them. And it gives the casual fan, which is why they've done this decision for, it gives the casual fan the thought process of, well, what's the point in watching week to week when these part-timers aren't here? Because they're better than the people that are on telly every week. And what? How could you disagree with them? Because every time the part-timer comes in, they beat the full-time guy. It doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make any sense. And it's results like this is why Bray Wyatt had to go away and completely reinvent himself in the first place. Because the old Bray Wyatt would just lose every big match he was in. Starting at WrestleMania 30 against John Cena, he lost that match. And then every single big match he was in, whether it would be Roman Reigns, Dean Ambrose, whoever he would face, The Undertaker at WrestleMania, he would lose. And then this idea that Bray Wyatt is a loser, it gets put in your head. Look at the biggest superstars ever. They've all continuously won. That's how you become a big star. You didn't see John Cena, you didn't see Hulk Hogan, you didn't see Steve Austin, you didn't see The Rock, even Roman Reigns. They didn't do, when they're ascending to the top, they don't do many jobs. Why? Because as soon as you lose credibility. Once you're at the top, you can do as many jobs as you want. It really doesn't matter because you're already a made man. But when you're on your ascent, you've got to win big matches. And Bray Wyatt, like he had in the past, lost another big match. And Wyatt last time had to go away and put his whole career on the line and completely change to become relevant again. And he's just been squished again. You know, I remember a couple of weeks ago, CM Punk on WWE Backstage, he was complaining about when he faced John Cena on Raw. They had that tremendous match, and he said he went out there and wrestled with the biggest chip on his shoulder because he felt at the time that he'd been the WWE champion in that famous run for, was it 434 days, carried it from Survivor Series in 2011, and he thought, okay, I'm going to get to WrestleMania 29 in New York, New Jersey, and he was going to main event. He was going to get what he wanted. And then he said it felt like he had run a marathon, and then for the last, 500 yards, WWE had said, actually, give the baton to John Cena, he's going to go over the finish line. And it pisses him off. And this is the same thing here. Bray Wyatt was the Universal Champion since Crown Jewel last year. He's carried it all the way since then. Not a long time, to be honest, for a championship reign. Not a long time at all. And then once he gets, we're like, 5-6 weeks out of WrestleMania, he has to hand the baton to Goldberg, and Goldberg can finish the marathon. And I know it's people go, well, life isn't fair. This is business. You can't talk about being fair. Well, it's not fair and it's not right. I think that's the biggest problem. And WWE didn't need to do this, okay? If you wanted to avoid this, you didn't need to put the championship on Bray Wyatt in the first place. He didn't need it. A character like Bray Wyatt is a character similar to The Undertaker, whereby the WWE Championship or the WWE Universal Championship, it's almost secondary to them because it doesn't matter. The character of The Fiend, the character of Bray Wyatt is so compelling and awe-inspiring that they don't need the championship. It's just extra baggage. Sometimes you need the championship to make the man or the man to make the championship. It doesn't even factor into The Fiend or Bray Wyatt or anything like that in this case. So you didn't need to do it. So once they decided, okay, we're going to have Bray Wyatt face Seth Rollins at Hell in a Cell back in October. Remember how bad that was, that booking disaster. Oh, wait, we're still having that same problem in 2020 in February. They didn't need to do it. They backed themselves into a corner, and they do this a lot. They book themselves into a corner, that they have to get out of eventually, and it looks terrible, and the fans hate it, and they've done it again. They could have had the Fiend, if they'd have had some sense of foresight here and gone, okay, we're going to probably have Bray Wyatt facing John Cena at WrestleMania. You'd go, okay, keep him out of the Universal Championship scene. Keep him out of any championship scene, because if he becomes champion, eventually he's going to have to drop it. And how does he drop it? He has to lose. And as soon as he loses, this mystique, this undefeated, unbeatableness aura you have around the Fiend disappears like that. And that's exactly what happened last night. And people will say, oh, it's just a chapter, he can bounce back from this. People will always remember that he was beaten in 3 minutes by Goldberg. People remember it about Brock Lesnar when he was beaten by Goldberg, and they'll go, oh yeah, but Goldberg got his redemption, blah blah blah. It's different. Like I said, Brock Lesnar is a made man. Brock Lesnar is a star regardless. Brock Lesnar can do jobs. He doesn't do many, but he can do them to whoever he wants, and nothing is going to change about the status and the star that is Brock Lesnar. That's not the same with Bray Wyatt. He's only been, real hot for the last couple of, 10 months, 9 months, and it can disappear just as quickly. It takes a lot longer to make a star than to break a star. And then you have people like Bully Ray on Twitter saying, oh, you don't get it. It's WrestleMania season. If you're angry, you don't get it. No, Bully Ray, I don't think you get it. And you're part of the problem when it comes to this. People in charge in WWE think they know best. It's the Vince McMahonism, isn't it? You people don't know what you want. I know what you want. That's bullshit. Absolute bullshit. The fans know what they want. And I get you can't always give the fans what they want. But when stuff is stupid, when stuff doesn't make sense, then don't do it. Just don't do it. And their logic will be, oh, well, Goldberg versus Reigns is a bigger match. But that's only because you don't give the chance to get a talent over. That's the only reason why. You didn't allow for Bray Wyatt or The Fiend to truly get over. And if you had, like I said, if you had some foresight, you'd have seen, okay, we shouldn't book ourselves into a corner yet again, like they do, and then have to find a shitty way out of it. And that's just the facts when it comes to this. And in my opinion, WrestleMania is the Super Bowl, okay? At this point, it's the Super Bowl. It's going to sell out regardless. People will always go to watch WrestleMania. You're not going to have a WrestleMania when they go, oh, the card wasn't very good, so I decided not to go. Having Bray Wyatt in the main event isn't going to draw an empty stadium in Tampa, Florida. And when it comes to, pay-per-view buys, that doesn't even matter anymore because it's on the network. All you care about is your network sign-ups. And to be honest, the whole network sign-up thing's failed completely because you're shipping your pay-per-view rights to ESPN+. So, does it matter? Does it really matter if Bray Wyatt is the Universal Champion going into WrestleMania? And you have no idea if he could carry the ball because you didn't give him a chance. And people will say, oh, they did give Bray Wyatt a chance. I think he was champion for 141 days. Is that really a chance? Of course it isn't. Of course it isn't. Now, trying to look on the other side of this, how do you redeem this if you can? How do you fix this? Well, it would appear that Bray Wyatt is going to be facing John Cena at WrestleMania. Now, The Fiend has to win to redeem himself. And all of this, ironically, I mentioned it earlier, all of this kind of started with this Bray Wyatt loses big matches syndrome. Started at WrestleMania 30 when he faced John Cena. And Bray Wyatt, going into that match, should have won that match at WrestleMania 30. He was red hot. He had a match of the year candidate against Daniel Bryan at the Royal Rumble. He had the tremendous series of matches with the Wyatt family versus The Shield, which we haven't all forgotten about. They were awesome. And then he had the feud against John Cena, which going into WrestleMania was actually very compelling. He had some real great promos, some real great stuff in the ring. And then what happened? John Cena wins, and then Bray Wyatt's descent into the mid-card and eventually reinventing himself started there. So hopefully if we have Bray Wyatt or The Fiend versus John Cena at WrestleMania this year, The Fiend finally, or Bray Wyatt finally gets his win that he should have got at WrestleMania 30, and we can start building this character back up because of the damage that they've done. And maybe this was my, I guess, saving grace thought about this, is that it would appear then that you're going to have Goldberg versus Reigns for the Universal Championship at WrestleMania. Now, it almost feels like they've done all of this, putting the championship on Goldberg, taking it off The Fiend, getting the internet absolutely pissed off and fired up and just raging. It feels like they've done all of this to ensure that there is a champion that the fans actually want to see drop the title to Roman Reigns. And if that's their plan, then my God, have they succeeded. I don't give WWE any credit in that because I just don't think they have the foresight in doing that. This is the same company, especially on the SmackDown side of things, with Bruce Pritchard and Vince McMahon, that apparently their WrestleMania card's been up in the air for the last 5 weeks, changing every 5 seconds. So I don't think they have the foresight to say, well, if we put it on Goldberg, put the title on Goldberg, the fans will really hate Goldberg. So if they'll actually want to see Roman Reigns become the champion, which has never been the case. I mean, if that's true, maybe that's why they've done it, to ensure that Reigns wins the title and he actually gets cheered doing so, which just hasn't been the case before. Maybe this has all been part of their elaborate plan to finally get Roman Reigns cheered as a champion. Because there's no way at this point, after last night, especially with the smart fans that are going to be at WrestleMania and going to be at the post WrestleMania Raws and SmackDowns, and to be honest, even tonight, they're in Boston tonight for SmackDown, and that's a pretty smart crowd. So there ain't no way that Goldberg gets cheered at WrestleMania or SmackDown tonight for that point. So maybe that's why they've done all of this. Not only do they think it's the bigger match, but they think Goldberg can take the heat because, quite frankly, he doesn't care. He doesn't care if he gets booed or cheered. If anything, he thrives on it. You saw his only tweet since winning the Universal Championship has been responded to Macaulay Culkin, who said "Oh, I'm not going to Tampa anymore," and he said like "good dork" or something like that. So Goldberg almost thrives on the heat, I guess, and maybe that's why they've done it. I'm giving them way too much credit, I know, because I know they're not smart enough to think of that. But it just looks stupid, doesn't it? It just looks stupid. I mean, like I said, Bray Wyatt kicks out of a million stomps and running these at one, but a few spears and the shittiest of jackhammers, and then Wyatt's down. But not for long. He was down for the free count, but not for long, because he stood up after the match, gets really angry, and then disappears into the darkness like an idiot. So that was stupid as well. It's just stupid. And to the argument of, well, there's logic there. Yes, there is logic there. At no point did people say, oh, this is illogical. This is illogical. But what people have said, including myself, is that it's stupid. And it's wrong. And it's the reason why WWE is hemorrhaging viewers and less people watch WWE programming every single year. Because WWE can't build new stars. Because they don't have the patience and the faith to do so. Like I said earlier, superstars or those megastars get over by winning. Hulk Hogan, John Cena, Steve Austin, The Rock, Shawn Michaels, Bret Hart, Triple H. How do they become megastars? They win the big matches early on in their career because it makes them legit and it makes the fans believing them. WWE thrived in the late 90s. They talk about the Monday Night Wars because everyone loves it. And WWE won the Monday Night Wars and thrived in the late 90s because they had young stars winning and not putting over returning 50-year-old talents like Hulk Hogan, like Randy Savage, like Roddy Piper. That's what WCW did. And look how that ended to them. And at this point, WWE, they're just repeating historical mistakes and they won't learn. They won't learn because they're too stubborn to learn. And I'm sure tonight we'll see the fallout of it with Goldberg on SmackDown as the Universal Champion. We might see the Roman Reigns match get made official between them. And I'm sure John Cena returns to SmackDown tonight, returns to WWE on SmackDown tonight in Boston, his sort of hometown away from home. He's from West Newbury, Massachusetts, so he's from that state. And I'm sure maybe the Fiend will come out and attack him or something like that, and we'll get a clearer picture of where they're going for WrestleMania at this point. But it's just... like I said, it just feels pointless. What was the last 9 months for when it comes to the Fiend? And if, like I said, if WWE had this, even the slightest sense of foresight, they could have prevented all of this without booking themselves into a corner. But that's what they do. They don't think ahead. They book from week to week or pay-per-view to pay-per-view, and eventually it's bitten them in the arse at this point. And I'm not sure... Look, I'm not going to be one of those people that's like, oh, I'm going to cancel the network, blah, blah, blah. It's WrestleMania season. People aren't going to cancel their networks, okay? It's the biggest pay-per-view of the year coming up, and people like you and me, people that are angry, people that complain about WWE, if you're probably watching this video, you'll probably watch WWE tonight, or at the very least, you'll read up about what happened and look at the highlights on YouTube. But it's just, at some point, WWE has to be careful because even the casual fans, and when you start turning off the hardcore fans, that's when you have to really start being worried. And WWE isn't the only show in town anymore. And I'm not going to say, oh, AEW is going to draw more viewers than Raw and SmackDown, because they won't. But AEW have a pay-per-view this Saturday, and if you drive away, some people that might not have watched AEW before, and they'll go, look, I'll watch that horrible pay-per-view in the week, and maybe I'll try AEW out. So be careful, be careful. But it's not all about me, of course. What do you think? What do you think of Goldberg as Universal Champion? What did you think of the pay-per-view last night? How would you book this going forward? How would you redeem this going forward? Let me know in the comment section below. Be sure to like, share, and most importantly, subscribe. We're building up our subscribers every single day, so I really appreciate all your support on that one. You can also follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, of course. And if you subscribe to this channel, we're going to be uploading AEW Revolution predictions and previews later on today. So thank you very much for watching, listening, streaming, or however you come across this video today. And I'm sure I'll speak with you again very, very soon.